The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the usual mix of translator static and alien ego. Captain Rex Bulldozer sat in the human delegation chair, which looked suspiciously like it had been designed by someone who had never actually seen a human spine, and listened to the most ridiculous bragging session in the history of interstellar relations. And then Admiral Tentaclus was saying, his purple tentacles writhing dramatically, "The Earth beast they call House Cat stalked me for 3 entire rotations." Its eyes glowed like twin suns of death, and it made this terrifying rumbling sound that shook my very core. He paused for effect, all 8 eyes darting around the room. I barely escaped with my life. Commander Furbottom, whose species looked like someone had crossed a hamster with a filing cabinet, nodded sagely. The golden retriever was worse. It approached me with its massive jaws open, dripping with saliva, clearly preparing to devour me whole. I had to use every survival instinct my people have developed over millennia. Rex blinked slowly. He was pretty sure Commander Furbottom was describing a dog trying to lick his face, but who was he to crush dreams? General Spikezilla, who resembled a gecko that had hit the gym way too hard, slammed his clawed fist on the table. "You think that's impressive?" I encountered the dreaded garden snake, serpent so cunning, so deadly, that it had camouflaged itself among the vegetation. When I approached, it immediately assumed a threatening posture and refused to back down. "Did it attack?" asked Tentaclus, leaning forward with morbid curiosity. "Worse," Spikezilla whispered. It stared at me for a full minute. The psychological warfare was brutal. Rex rubbed his temples. He'd heard variations of this story about 15 times now, and each telling made Earth's wildlife sound progressively more terrifying. Apparently, the galactic community had been sending their bravest warriors to Earth for survival training, and they'd been coming back with tales that would make National Geographic weep. "The point is," Tentaclus continued, puffing up with pride, "we've all proven that we can survive Earth's most dangerous predators. We've mastered your death world, Captain Bulldozer. We've faced the apex predators of your planet and lived to tell the tale." Rex looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens, all nodding and murmuring agreement. These were supposed to be the galaxy's elite warriors, the cream of the crop from dozens of species, and they were bragging about surviving encounters with pets. "That's really something," Rex said carefully. "Really, really something." "Indeed it is," Furbottom squeaked. "We've catalogued every dangerous species on your planet. From the terrifying butterfly with its erratic flight patterns to the massive cow that could crush a being with its bulk. We've seen it all." Rex felt a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Oh, this was going to be fun. The alien bragging session continued for another hour, with increasingly ridiculous stories about surviving Earth's deadly ecosystem. Rex learned that squirrels were apparently master tacticians, that earthworms were subterranean assassins, and that the less said about the demonic hummingbirds, the better. "The truth is," Admiral Tentaclus announced, spreading his tentacles wide, "Earth no longer holds any mysteries for us. We've conquered your world's challenges. We've adapted to its hostile environment. We've proven that intelligence and preparation can overcome any natural obstacle." "Any obstacle?" Rex asked, raising an eyebrow. "Absolutely," General Spikezilla growled. "We've survived everything your planet can throw at us. Every predator, every environmental hazard, every biological threat. We are the apex survivors." Commander Furbottom chittered in agreement. "Our survival manuals are now the standard for hostile world training across 17 sectors. Other species come to us for advice on how to handle dangerous planets." Rex leaned back in his uncomfortable chair, trying to process this level of cosmic irony. Here were beings from across the galaxy, species that had mastered faster than light travel, energy manipulation, and probably 17 different ways to destroy a planet, and they were bragging about outsmarting golden retrievers. "So you're saying," Rex said slowly, "that you've encountered every dangerous species on Earth?" Every single one, Tentaclus confirmed. Our xenobiologists have been thorough. We've documented, categorized, and survival tested against every apex predator your world has produced. And you're confident that Earth has no more surprises for you. None whatsoever, Spikazilla declared. We've mastered your death world, human. What else could your planet possibly contain that we haven't already conquered? Rex looked around the chamber again, noting the confident postures, the self-satisfied expressions, the complete and utter lack of awareness that was about to make this the most entertaining diplomatic mission of his career. Well, he said, trying to keep his voice casual, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think you might have missed a few things during your survival training. The aliens exchanged glances. Tentaclus's tentacles twitched nervously. Missed things? Impossible. Our surveys were comprehensive. I'm sure they were, Rex agreed. But see, the thing about Earth is, it's got layers. Like an onion. Or a really twisted joke that the universe is playing on everyone. Explain, Furbottom demanded, his whiskers twitching. Rex stood up, straightening his uniform. Tell you what, since you're all so confident about mastering Earth's dangers, how about I give you a little tour? Show you around the neighborhood. Let you meet some of the locals you might have missed. Are you challenging our survival capabilities? Spikazilla asked, his scales rattling ominously. Oh no, Rex said, grinning. I'm just offering to introduce you to the real Earth. The parts that don't usually show up in nature documentaries. The aliens huddled together, whispering in their various languages. After a few minutes of heated discussion, Tentaclus spoke for the group. Very well, Captain Bulldozer. We accept your offer. But we warn you, we've already proven we can survive anything your world can produce. I'm sure you have, Rex said, his smile growing wider. I'm absolutely sure you have. As the meeting adjourned and the aliens began making preparations for their educational tour, Rex pulled out his communication device and sent a quick message to Earth. Bring the kids home early from school tomorrow. We're having very special visitors, and I want them to meet some real Earth predators. This was going to be better than reality TV. The landing pad at Edwards Air Force Base had seen a lot of strange things over the years, but even by its standards, the collection of alien spacecraft looked particularly ridiculous. Tentaclus's ship resembled a flying purple donut, Furbottom's looked like someone had strapped rockets to a cheese grater, and Spikazilla's appeared to be overcompensating for something with its excessive number of weapon pods. Rex stood on the tarmac, breathing in the familiar smell of jet fuel and desert air, watching as his galactic guests emerged from their ships in full survival gear. Tentaclus had donned what looked like a hazmat suit made of chainmail. Furbottom was wearing enough armor to outfit a small army, and Spikazilla had apparently decided that the best approach to Earth's dangers was to look like a walking tank. Welcome to Earth, Rex said cheerfully. Hope you're not too disappointed by the lack of immediate mortal peril. We're prepared for anything, Tentaclus announced, his voice muffled by what appeared to be a breathing apparatus designed for surviving chemical warfare. Your planet's reputation precedes it. Oh, I'm sure it does, Rex replied, leading them toward a waiting van. But don't worry, I thought we'd start with something nice and easy. Just a quick trip to the suburbs to meet some of the locals. The ride through the desert and into the residential areas was punctuated by the aliens running commentary on Earth's hostile environment. They were particularly concerned about the aggressive vegetation lining the highways, the territorial marking behavior of roadside billboards, and the obvious predator lurking stations that Rex eventually realized were rest stops. Here we are, Rex announced as they pulled into the parking lot of Maple Creek Elementary School. Our first stop on the tour. The aliens peered out of the van windows with the sort of caution usually reserved for approaching black holes. The school looked perfectly normal, red brick building, playground equipment, a few teachers' cars in the parking lot, and the distant sound of children at recess. What manner of facility is this? Furbottom asked, his sensors whirring as they scanned the building. "Oh, this is where we keep some of our most dangerous specimens," Rex said casually. "Want to take a closer look?" The aliens exchanged nervous glances but followed Rex toward the playground. As they rounded the corner, they came face to face with 23 third graders in the middle of a particularly intense game of tag. The reaction was immediate and spectacular. Spikazilla dove behind a tree, Furbottom scrambled up Rex's leg like a furry missile, and Tentaclus somehow managed to tie himself in a knot while trying to activate what appeared to be a personal force field. "What are those creatures?" Tentaclus whispered, his voice pitched several octaves higher than usual. Rex looked out at the playground, where little Emma Peterson had just tagged Marcus Williams so hard he'd fallen into the sandbox, causing a three-way argument about the rules, a brief alliance between former enemies, and the rapid formation of competing factions based on who had the cooler lunchbox. "Those," Rex said with barely contained glee, "are human children, ages 8 to 9, currently engaged in what we call recess. They're so small," Furbottom squeaked from his position wrapped around Rex's arm, "but so ruthless." On the playground, the game had evolved into something that looked like a cross between tag, capture the flag, and a diplomatic incident. The children were displaying tactical thinking that would make a military strategist weep with pride, combined with the sort of casual brutality that comes from having very little understanding of long-term consequences. "Watch this," Rex said, pointing to where a group of kids were playing dodgeball. "See how they coordinate their attacks. Notice the psychological warfare? The way they target the weak first, then form temporary alliances to take down the strong?" The aliens watched in horrified fascination as 9-year-old Jake Morrison executed a play that involved a fake injury, a distraction technique, and what could only be described as a flanking maneuver that would have impressed Sun Tzu. "And this is normal behavior?" Spikazilla asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Oh, this is them being good," Rex replied. "You should see what happens when they disagree about the rules." As if summoned by his words, a dispute erupted over whether Michael had been tagged before crossing the baseline. The aliens watched in growing horror as the children engaged in negotiations that combined legal precedent, emotional manipulation, and threats of social exclusion, all delivered with the kind of intensity usually reserved for matters of life and death. "Dear Cosmos," Tentaclus breathed. "They're monsters." "They're kids," Rex corrected. "And they're just getting started." The next stop was a 2-story house on Elm Street that looked like it had been decorated by someone who had given up on life but was too polite to mention it. Rex rang the doorbell, and after a moment, the door opened to reveal Janet Morrison, a woman who appeared to be held together by coffee, determination, and what looked like the last threads of her sanity. "Oh, hi, Rex," she said, bouncing a crying baby on her hip while simultaneously trying to prevent a toddler from eating what appeared to be a houseplant. "Is this about the neighborhood watch thing? Because I told you I can't do Thursday nights. That's when I catch up on the laundry that's been reproducing in the basement." "Actually, Janet, I wanted to introduce you to some visitors," Rex said, gesturing to the heavily armed aliens cowering behind him. "They're from off-world, and they're interested in meeting Earth's apex predators." Janet looked at the aliens, then back at Rex, then shrugged with the kind of resignation that comes from dealing with 3 kids under 10. "Well, come on in, I guess. Just watch out for the Legos. And the dog. And honestly, everything else." The aliens followed Rex into what could only be described as a war zone. The living room showed clear signs of a battle between the forces of order and chaos, with chaos winning by a significant margin. Toys were scattered across the floor like battlefield debris, mysterious stains decorated the furniture, and somewhere in the distance, a washing machine was making sounds that suggested it was either dying or achieving sentience. "Sorry about the mess," Janet said, not sounding sorry at all. "Tommy had a birthday party yesterday, and we're still finding cake in weird places." Yesterday I found frosting in the bathroom. I don't want to know how it got there. As if summoned by his name, Tommy Morrison, age 7, came sliding into the room wearing what appeared to be a superhero costume made from kitchen towels and determination. He took one look at the aliens and immediately began interrogating them with the sort of intensity usually reserved for tax audits. Are you from space? Do you have laser guns? Can you fly? Are you here to steal our cows? Why do you look so weird? Are you good aliens or bad aliens? Do you know Superman? The aliens huddled together, overwhelmed by the rapid-fire questioning. Tentaclus tried to respond, but before he could get a word out, Tommy had moved on to trying to climb Spikezilla like a jungle gym. Tommy, honey, don't climb on the nice aliens, Janet said absently, while simultaneously changing the baby's diaper, stirring something on the stove, and having what sounded like a heated phone conversation about school fundraising quotas. She's multitasking, Rex explained to his increasingly terrified guests. Standard human parental behavior. Notice the efficiency, the split-second decision-making, the ability to maintain 17 different conversations while preventing multiple small disasters. Furbottom watched in fascination as Janet somehow managed to referee a dispute between two kids over a toy, schedule a dentist appointment, and prevent what appeared to be a minor kitchen fire, all while maintaining a perfectly cheerful demeanor. How is this possible? He whispered. Evolution, Rex replied. Millions of years of dealing with human children tends to create some impressive survival adaptations. Their next stop was the Department of Motor Vehicles, where Rex had promised to show them one of humanity's most sophisticated torture devices. The aliens, still shaken from their encounter with suburban parenting, followed him into the fluorescent-lit nightmare that was government bureaucracy in action. Take a number, the clerk said without looking up. Rex pulled ticket number 47 from the dispenser. The display showed they were currently serving number 12. This is a waiting facility, Rex explained as they found seats in plastic chairs that had clearly been designed by someone who had never experienced the concept of human comfort. Humans come here to renew their vehicle licenses, register their cars, and test their patience against the very limits of cosmic endurance. The aliens looked around at the assembled humans who were displaying the sort of grim determination usually associated with siege warfare. Some were reading books, others were staring at their phones, and a few had achieved what appeared to be a state of transcendental acceptance of their fate. How long do they wait? Tentaclus asked. Hours, Rex replied. Sometimes days. Legend has it that old Pete Henderson has been waiting since 1987, but the staff insists he's just part of the furniture now. Spikezilla studied the humans with growing respect. And they just accept this? Oh, they don't accept it, Rex said. They endure it. There's a difference. Watch. Notch. As if on cue, a woman at the front desk began what could only be described as a master class in polite but persistent complaint management. She maintained a smile that could have powered a small city while systematically dismantling the clerk's arguments with the sort of logic that would make a philosophy professor weep with joy. That's Mrs. Patterson, Rex whispered. She's been coming here for 3 weeks trying to get her address changed. She's currently working through the appeals process while simultaneously filing complaints with 6 different oversight committees. The aliens watched in awe as Mrs. Patterson deployed a combination of regulatory knowledge, emotional manipulation, and what appeared to be the bureaucratic equivalent of psychological warfare. Magnificent, Furbottom breathed. She's like a warrior poet, but for paperwork. Now you're getting it, Rex said, grinning. Welcome to Earth, where the real predators don't have claws or fangs. They have patience, persistence, and an intimate knowledge of municipal regulations. Rex's final stop was the Crown Valley Mall on a Saturday afternoon, and by now his alien guests were looking like they were seriously reconsidering their life choices. The parking lot alone had been enough to trigger what appeared to be a mild panic attack in Commander Furbottom, who couldn't understand how humans could navigate such a chaotic maze of metal death traps without losing their minds. "This is it," Rex announced as they approached the main entrance. "The ultimate demonstration of human predatory behavior in its natural environment." The automatic doors opened with a cheerful whoosh, and the aliens were immediately hit by the sensory overload of modern retail warfare. The sounds of 100 conversations, the competing scents of pretzels and perfume, the visual assault of sales signs and promotional displays, all combined to create what Tentaclus would later describe in his report as a carefully orchestrated attack on every known sense. "Welcome to the American shopping mall," Rex said, leading them past a group of teenagers who were engaged in what appeared to be a complex social ritual involving phones, makeup, and the sort of casual cruelty that could reduce a grown alien to tears. "This is where humans come to hunt." "Hunt for what?" Spikazilla asked, his scales practically vibrating with nervousness. "Bargains," Rex replied. "Sales. The perfect outfit, status symbols. Sometimes just the thrill of the chase." They paused outside the GameStop, where a group of humans were engaged in what looked like a heated negotiation over trade and values. The aliens watched in fascination as a 12-year-old kid systematically dismantled the store clerk's arguments while simultaneously calculating the optimal combination of trades to maximize his purchasing power. "The juvenile is demonstrating advanced economic warfare," Furbottom observed, his scientific training kicking in despite his obvious terror. "Notice how he's using emotional manipulation combined with market knowledge to achieve optimal resource allocation." "That's nothing," Rex said, pointing toward the food court. "Watch this." A family of 4 was approaching the various food vendors, and what followed was a masterpiece of strategic planning that would have impressed a team of military logistics experts. The parents split up to maximize efficiency, the children deployed to different locations to secure optimal seating, and within minutes they had coordinated a complex operation involving multiple vendors, shared resources, and what appeared to be a backup plan in case the pizza place ran out of pepperoni. "Dear Cosmos," Tentaclus whispered. "They're like a pack of highly intelligent wolves, but with opposable thumbs and credit cards." "And this is them being casual," Rex said. "You should see what happens during Black Friday." The aliens didn't need to ask what Black Friday was. They had heard the stories passed down through galactic trade networks like warnings about cosmic storms, tales of humans camping outside stores, of strategic planning that rivaled military campaigns, of shopping carts weaponized in the pursuit of discounted electronics. "But surely," Spikazilla said, his voice getting smaller, "this is just retail behavior. Surely humans aren't this organized in other aspects of their lives." Rex smiled, and it was not a comforting expression. "Oh, my scaly friend, you haven't seen anything yet." He led them to the center of the mall, where a crowd had gathered around what appeared to be a small stage. A sign announced Parent-Teacher Conference Simulation, sponsored by the Maple Creek Elementary PTA. "This is a training exercise," Rex explained as the aliens watched in growing horror. "Humans practicing for one of their most feared social encounters." On the stage, a volunteer parent was facing off against a volunteer teacher in what could only be described as a psychological chess match. The parent was deploying a combination of concern, subtle threats, and what appeared to be carefully researched educational policy, while the teacher countered with professional experience, diplomatic immunity, and the sort of patient smile that suggested they had dealt with this exact situation approximately 3,000 times before. "Notice the subtext," Rex said quietly. "The parent is essentially saying, 'My child is perfect, and if they're failing, it's your fault,' while the teacher is responding with, 'Your child is a delightful little sociopath, and I'm trying to save them from themselves.' But they're both saying it so politely that it sounds like they're planning a charity bake sale." The aliens watched in stunned silence as the exchange continued, each participant demonstrating levels of passive-aggressive warfare that would have made their respective diplomatic corps weep with envy. "This is how they resolve conflicts?" Furbottom asked. "This is how they avoid resolving conflicts," Rex corrected. "They'll have this same conversation 17 more times," file 6 different forms, schedule 4 follow-up meetings, and somehow convince themselves that they've accomplished something meaningful. But why? Tentaclus asked, his tentacles drooping with exhaustion. Rex looked at his alien guests, noting their obvious distress, their growing understanding of what they had really encountered during their survival training on Earth. Because, he said gently, every other species on this planet has spent millions of years learning to avoid us. The animals you met, the ones you're so proud of surviving, they're not dangerous because they're apex predators. They're dangerous because they've had to become dangerous to survive sharing a planet with us. The truth was finally starting to sink in. The aliens looked around the mall with new eyes, seeing not just strange creatures engaged in bizarre rituals, but the apex predators of an entire world, casually going about their daily lives with the sort of efficient ruthlessness that had made every other species on Earth evolve defensive strategies. "We need to leave," Spikazilla said quietly. "We need to leave now." "But we haven't even shown you rush hour traffic yet," Rex said. "Or tax season. Or family holiday dinners." The aliens were already backing toward the exit, their survival instincts finally kicking in about 6 hours too late. The parking lot of Crown Valley Mall had never seen a faster evacuation. The aliens practically sprinted to their vehicles, their various survival suits making sounds like a percussion section having a nervous breakdown. Rex followed at a leisurely pace, hands in his pockets, whistling a tune that sounded suspiciously like "Don't Stop Believin'." Captain Bulldozer Admiral Tentaclus called out, his voice echoing strangely from inside his heavily armored spacecraft. "We must discuss the implications of what we've witnessed today." "Sure thing," Rex replied, leaning against the hull of the purple donut ship. "What's on your mind?" "The creatures we encountered during our survival training," Tentaclus began, his tentacles twitching nervously behind the reinforced viewport. "The house cats, the golden retrievers, the garden snakes. They weren't trying to hunt us, were they?" Rex pretended to consider this. "Well, the cats might have been plotting something. They usually are. But the dogs were probably just trying to be friendly, and the snakes were most likely wondering why you were bothering them." Commander Furbottom's voice crackled through the communication system from his cheese grater ship. "So when the golden retriever approached me with its mouth open, dripping with saliva." "He wanted to lick your face," Rex confirmed. "It's a sign of affection. Humans actually pay good money for that kind of attention." There was a long pause while the aliens processed this information. Then General Spikazilla's voice came through, sounding like he was speaking from the bottom of a very deep, very secure bunker. "The garden snake that stared at me for a full minute. Probably wondering if you were a threat, a friend, or just another weird thing to ignore," Rex said. "Snakes aren't really big on confrontation. They mostly just want to be left alone to do snake things." "Snake things?" Tentaclus asked weakly. "You know, lying in the sun, eating mice, being generally snaky. It's not a complicated lifestyle." The silence that followed was profound. Rex could practically hear the sound of entire worldviews collapsing and reforming. Finally, Furbottom spoke up, his voice small and confused. "So the animals we survived, they weren't actually trying to kill us?" "Nope," Rex said cheerfully. "They were just living their lives. Most of Earth's animals have exactly zero interest in fighting anything they can't eat, and you guys are way too weird to be on anybody's menu." "But then why are they so dangerous?" Spikazilla asked. "Our survival instructors told us that Earth's ecosystem was one of the most hostile in the galaxy." Rex looked up at the sky, where 3 alien spacecraft were hovering at what their pilots clearly considered a safe distance from the surface. "Because they've spent millions of years sharing a planet with us. Every defense mechanism, every survival strategy, every bit of cunning and ruthlessness that you encountered, they developed all of that to deal with humans." "The implications are staggering," Tentaclus whispered. "If the animals are that dangerous because they've had to adapt to humans, then humans must be. The real apex predators, Rex finished. The creatures that every other species on Earth has spent evolutionary ages learning to avoid, outwit, or survive. You want to know why cats are such efficient hunters? Because they've had to be. You want to know why dogs are so good at reading social cues? Because they've had to be. You want to know why even the harmless animals have backup plans and escape routes? Because they've had to be. The aliens absorbed this information with the sort of stunned silence usually reserved for cosmic revelations. Which, Rex supposed, this pretty much was. We need to update our survival manuals, Furbottom said finally. We need to update our threat assessments, Spikazilla added. We need to update our pants, Tentaclus concluded, which was probably more information than anyone needed. Rex stepped back as the spacecraft began powering up for departure. Hey, before you go, he called out, you sure you don't want to stick around? I was thinking we could visit a kindergarten class during snack time. Or maybe a suburban homeowners association meeting. Really show you how we handle territorial disputes. The response was immediate and unanimous. 3 spacecraft accelerated toward orbit so fast they left scorch marks on the parking lot asphalt. Rex watched them disappear into the sky, then pulled out his phone to make a call. Yeah, it's me. The alien delegation just left. How'd it go? Well, let's just say the Galactic Council is about to receive some very interesting reports about Earth's classification status. He paused, listening to the response, then grinned. Oh, and honey, you might want to prep the kids for some interesting questions at their next show and tell. Something tells me we're about to become the most famous scary story in the galaxy. As he walked back toward his car, Rex couldn't help but chuckle. Tomorrow, somewhere in the galaxy, a group of alien commanders would be filing reports recommending that Earth be reclassified as a proceed with extreme caution planet. Not because of its animals, but because of its humans. And honestly, that seemed about right.